Welcome to
Lunch
break, you guys. Thank you for joining in. Grab a coffee, grab some food. We're going to get into some conversations like we have been.
We got a studio audience out there. Glad to have you guys with us today. Glad to have James Burton with us.
Thanks for having me.
And so is James Burton Jr. So
that's right. Put the junior on there. I'm adamant about my junior.
Well, there again, that means that there was somebody else that was kind of the patriarch in the family. Well, I love knowing you, James. I love being here with you, Justin.
Yes. And the tech team. Don't forget the tech team.
My gosh,
Thank you guys again.
Couldn't do it without you guys.
We have Seth. We have Cohen. We have Vince who's back there somewhere. We thank you all, Tessa and Taylor, for giving us all the ideas. I even just heard off camera, we heard he has a personal stylist.
Yeah. My daughter, Tessa and Taylor.
I got to get me one of those. My daughter's too young to style me yet.
They get kind of embarrassed on some of the stuff I'd wear, so they go, "Dad, let us do it," and they can vouch for it. If you guys know my girls, I'll take pictures and send it to them. They'll go, "Not that, Dad." So maybe it's no sense of style. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so, they did good. You guys look good, both of you guys.
Thank you.
So, if you notice, I got some little stuff on my head.
What's going on? I know you haven't been fighting. What's happening?
Justin, I know you're going there, so I just thought I'd bring it up and tell him myself. I went to the dermatologist this week, and I had a wedding on Saturday, so my appointment was originally on Friday, and I knew they'd probably burn some stuff off because they always do.
Yeah.
There again, what's the stuff you do when you're young and dumb? I was exposed to too much sun when I was young, so now I'm paying for it. So they found some precancerous spots and burned them off. And so I moved it to Monday, and I forgot about our podcast. So I was either going to do a wedding, and I'd look like this. You
chose right.
That's what's going on.
Right choice, man.
So we had a question this week from our viewers, and last week we had Emmanuel on, and one of our viewers said it was really neat hearing from Emmanuel and a professional trainer, and he had clients, and the clients were
big name
clients.
J.J. Watt of the Houston Texans. I think he moved now to Pittsburgh Steelers. Jadeveon Clowney and what is it, George
Springer.
That's
right.
So he's been with some big names. So what was this question?
Well, the question came in the form of, when I get around people of somewhat importance, I kind of clam up. I don't know how I could do something like that because, I'd kind of be starstruck, I think, is probably what they were getting at.
Gotcha.
And now I can talk about this personally because I have a speech impediment. It was diagnosed when I was in second grade. Now, I went to school when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, and so they would wheel in this cart, and then they would have you count to 6 and say ABCs. For anybody with a lisp, which is what I have, 6s and 7s would really get you.
Right.
And so after that, they would take their notebook and they would write it, and then I would end up in special classes. and so my friends would always, kind of just, give me a hard time. So I had to overcome the speech impediment. And my first profession, when I was, a athlete, I didn't think that I would ever have to say anything. I could, in my sport, my profession was bodybuilding, so I could tell people I would stand in front of ESPN cameras in front of 10,000 people with nothing but a bikini brief on. But if you asked me to say 2 words, I was frozen. And I had to work on that because then I started to have some success. They started asking me to do seminars, which made me have to talk.
Right.
So I just started taking small steps. I remember going to some speech therapists, and I would have exercises for my tongue. I'm still a tongue thruster, which causes my lisp, but I didn't let it stop me. I think that's an important thing.
Man.
I think those are the things you would want to tell an audience. Don't let anything that is impeding you stop you from trying new things. I mean, I actually got to the point where I was a host for American Muscle Magazine back in 1986. ESPN had a show called American Muscle Magazine. I was a host on that show. So I just tell, don't let anything stop you. Just start doing the small steps to overcome a fright or a fear. What do they say? Fear is not real. It's just what you think it is.
False evidence appearing real.
Yes.
That's it.
Because isn't it danger? Danger's real.
Right.
But fear is sometimes the things that we fear never really happen in our life. So.
Yeah. For me, I was a person, I say this a lot actually from the stage. I remember taking D's and F's like on reports, because if you had to give the book report live in front of the class, I would just go, give me the F, like give it to me.
I'm not saying
I'll
nothing.
fail the class. I'll deal with this later. I'm not saying anything in front of people. And then for God to start calling me to
Yeah.
speak into people's lives, I had to start dealing with it. To this day, I still, even before, like I preached last night.
You did.
I
You did a
could
great
not-
job.
I could not eat before I preached.
You did a great job,
because it was
Justin.
going to come up.
God anointed you last
Praise
night.
the Lord. God is good. And that's why you have to. And this actually, I was going to bring the book that I've been listening to in later, but it should be talked about now. Pastor Josh told me to read this book called The Power of Focus. And it says the importance of focus is the ability to disregard distractions.
Ooh.
And
That's good.
those distractions are you seeing the faces, are you thinking this person is a big person? And really, we're all human. Even the biggest, highest up person you can think of has human issues, will die one day, has anxiety, is anxious.
They're regular people
just-
like us.
They're human. And you have to get past the distraction of who they are and who you're speaking to and focus on what is your point? What is your actual focus? For me, it's delivering the gospel. So if I have to get that done, so all my other worries and fears, they have to be put aside. And if you can tap into that, you guys, I'm telling you, it's removing the distractions, not making them bigger.
Well, I've been reading Paul is to people. Pastor Ron wrote this book, and one of the chapters, or one of the sub-chapters, are no more excuses.
There it is.
So it's one of those things that you just have to just kind of, life's hard. Jesus said that. Jesus says in this world you'll have trouble, you'll have tribulation, but take great joy, I've overcome the world. When people always tell me that, and they say, well, it's even hard after I get saved, I go, well, never says it in the Bible, it's going to be easy. Life's not easy.
But now I want to hear from James, because you're here for a reason.
Yeah.
And for one, we found out pre-show that he's a professional at this.
Yes, he is.
I'm not a
Let me
professional.
explain. He's a professional. He's reached levels we haven't ever reached.
Oh, come
He's
on
been
now.
on with Romeo in the morning.
Yes.
Doing
It was a
teaching
weekly
about
show.
tax, insurance. What are you teaching
Insurance,
about?
yeah.
So for one, we would like to hear from someone else. They hear from us a lot. I would like you to answer that question. How do you face speaking with Romeo in the morning and speaking to multiple
Right.
people?
Well, with Romeo was easy because it's over the radio. It's just me. It's just he and I in the room. So
No camera.
there's no camera. So I think I can kind of relate to some of the things you guys talked about speaking in front of people. And I think the first time I ever had to speak in front of somebody, I remember it vividly, and it kind of just pushed me out of my shell. So I had just got into business and was doing these seminars teaching people about legal insurance. And one of my mentors at the time, it's funny how people will do things just to push you, but
Yeah.
he was a big wig in our company, and he was coming all the way out from Washington, D.C. And I had a room full of people for him to present to. He had had me set this thing up. The business was growing. And I'm on the phone with him, and I'm like, where are you at? Like, we're starting in 5 minutes. He's like, oh, man, I just got off the plane in LAX.
Oh, no.
He's like, I'm not going to make it. He's like, you're just going to have to do it. And I'm like, I had never really been in front of a room with that many people, right?
Yeah.
And,
Pressure's on.
Right. So it's funny. I'm like, well, I have no choice. I just have to do it. So I get up there in front of the room and I start doing the presentation. And about 15 minutes into the presentation, he walks in the back of the room.
He was messing with you.
He was. He walks, he walks in the
good.
back of the room with a big smile on his face, and he was happy. And he just says, afterwards, I said, man, why come you didn't tell me? I said, I could have held off for 15 minutes. He said, because if I didn't push you, he said, no one would have ever pushed you. He said, you needed that, and you had to do it. He said, so that you can get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
that's good. That's good stuff.
And
right
he told
there.
me, he said, there's no success in a comfort zone. He said, so if you're too busy being comfortable, you'll never have the success that is waiting for you.
And that sounds like that's the answer to your question, whoever
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
We all just had to get thrust into the
Yeah.
position to get uncomfortable, and we thrive.
I think I've said this before. I used to always tell my daughters in athletics or school or jobs that pressure is privilege, because that means you're getting ready to do something that you haven't tried to do before. So, James, we always, and I know a lot about you, I think. I think there's a few things I'm going to find out. But we always ask our guests, is there anything about you that people don't know? I know your wife's, Janelle, beautiful wife's here in the audience. Is there anything about you that nobody knows? I found out that Justin plays the trombone. He found out I played the violin.
Yeah.
He's still
Okay.
picking. He's still picking at one that he hasn't got yet from me, and we'll leave
Right.
that for another time.
Oh yeah.
But is there anything?
I did play an instrument, but I think people probably know that. Something that nobody. I used to sell drugs.
There it is. That's what we're looking for. That's what I'm looking. I don't know if that's Pastor Tom looking for.
He maybe wasn't looking for that.
Was it legal or illegal?
It was legal.
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you. So
You are good.
I'm
He's good.
messing with you. I used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep.
Hilarious.
So,
I thought you had ass. We all got a story.
yeah. I did grow up in the hood, but I did pharmaceutical sales for about a year and a half. So.
James just shut the door. Drop the mic
I'm
on us.
glad, man. I was about to go me too until you. I'm just playing, you guys.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's so funny. It's so funny because the first time I ever met James and Janelle was at Cal State. Do you remember the story?
Yep, I remember. How we met.
I remember you walking into the Cal State campus and you had an iPad, not as nice as.
It wasn't the big one like Justin. Justin, I don't even think that one was out yet.
No,
Justin's got the granddaddy
no,
iPad.
This is my baby right here.
But as I got home that afternoon, I walked in and my wife had an iPad. She goes, somebody left this at Cal State. And I go, oh, okay. The Cal State campus. And you want to take it from there?
Well, what happened was, I don't know if it was our first or second time coming out, and I would bring my iPad simply because I like the Bible app on there. It's a lot bigger than trying to look at it on your phone and having to carry a Bible around. But I left it sitting there when we left out, and got in the car, and I thought about I left my iPad. And came back to the campus, and everybody had cleared out by the time I realized it. So I had the Find My iPhone, Find My iPad feature on the thing. So I'm busy pinging it all over the place. And this iPad is just, I'm like, this person's on a mission. Whoever has my iPad, they are everywhere because first they were at the marketplace.
Like they're dodging.
Yeah, they were they were at the marketplace, and I was pinging it. I'm like, they have to have it in their car. So so I made it so that it would make the beep. And then it moved to another store, and they were just all over the place. And then finally, me and my wife were in the car, we're driving all over, and I'm looking for it. And finally, I was like, oh, they're going in a residential neighborhood. So finally, we'll catch them at home. And I'm thinking, like, who tried to steal my iPad? That's really what I'm thinking, is who tried to steal my iPad. But in all is that Pastor Tom's wife had picked it up. And when I initially got there, they live in a gated community. So I couldn't even get in to get to the house that it was at. So I'm sitting there waiting for cars to come so I could follow a car in behind. And then finally I get in and I go up to the door and knock on the door, and Pastor Tom opens the door. I don't know if it was him or his daughter that opened the door.
I know exactly what you're looking for. Yeah. But it's so funny because my wife is notorious for that. I have a friend, John Haddad, who's going to be a guest on our show, I think in June. One time he called me on the phone. He goes, Tom, I've been following your wife. And Tiffany was pregnant at that time with our first daughter, who's Taylor, 25 years old right now, so it's 25 years ago. He goes, I just recognized it was Tiffany, but he goes, I'm telling you, Tom, you got to tell her to slow down. He goes, she's running lights, and I can't even keep up with her.
So she's always into something.
Well, it's funny when you said that. I was like, oh, this isn't the first time I've heard that one.
Right.
It was a neat experience, just going through there. So it was.
I just love
fun.
that you're thinking these people have stole your iPad. Like, who are these thugs?
And it's a
taking my iPad.
No, I'm thinking like somebody from church stole my iPad. No, I was thinking that when they were all over the place in the marketplace, because I'm like, how come they're not responding?
That is too good. That is too good. You never know. So James, tell us about yourself. I mean, we talked a little about the other night. You've got a real interesting story. So just kind of let our audience know who you are, what you do.
Well, I'm born and raised right here in Bakersfield, so VBF definitely fits me being in Bakersfield here. Raised in the church, grew up Baptist at Mount Zion Baptist Church. Baptized at a very young age. Back then, you had to get baptized to be in the choirs and be on the usher board. Did you sing? I think I can sing. I sound good in the shower.
We'll ask the wife.
She'll say no. Me and her have this debate of who the best singer is, and she says it's her. So I just acquiesce and say, "You're right, honey. It's you." And so
what's the saying? Happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that sometimes. Yeah. So happy spouse, happy house. Right. Right. We both got to be happy. We both got to be happy.
Yeah.
So. Born and raised here in Bakersfield, went to East Bakersfield High School. So like I said, I grew up on the east side, and blessed after I graduated from high school, went to Cal State Bakersfield, graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology, and initially started out before I got into the business world. I was actually in law enforcement, and that was probably my dream to be in law enforcement.
Really?
It was. And,
Did from a young age?
I don't know, my mom worked at the probation department.
There it
And she wasn't a probation officer, but she worked there. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, when I got into college, I was like, what do I want to do? And I wanted to do something where I could help people and give
like
back.
that.
You know what
I
I mean?
like that.
Because where I grew up at I wasn't the best neighborhood, so I figured if it's something where I can probably impact people in my community and where I grew up at, that would be what I wanted to do. And I didn't really want to be a social worker. So I ended up going into law enforcement.
So did that end up being true? Were you able to, through being a probation officer, do you feel you were able to affect your community, or what stories or what took place where you feel that you were able to accomplish that?
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, there's so many because when I first started off, before I became a probation officer, when I was in college, I actually worked at juvenile hall. So a lot of the kids, they come from where I came from, just similar background. They just made a wrong decision. So just sometimes just talking to people, and you're not necessarily ministering to them, but just talking to them and trying to lead them on the right path, find out what the source of their problem is and why they're getting themselves in these situations or why they surround themselves. So basically just trying to touch somebody and impact them. And it's good now. And I mean, I don't go to the mall like I used to, but when I was younger and I would deal with these kids, and sometimes even when I got to probation, I was dealing with adults as well.
Yeah.
So, and that one was a little bit more challenging, but you feel like when somebody comes back up to you and I remember you, hey, Mr. Burden, how you doing? And I
That's cool.
just want to let you know, this is what I've done with my life. And I made this change and stuff like that. So it was fun when I worked with kids. And then I got put on an adult caseload as well. So I had a mixed caseload between juveniles and adults. And it's a little more challenging when here I am, I was 22 years old. So I'm 22 years old as a probation officer, and I have people on my probation caseload that are 40, 50 years old. So it's like I'm a young kid trying to tell a grown man the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
And so then it started to be a little more challenging, and it wasn't quite as fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what does the Bible say? Don't let people look down on you because you're age, but stand out in your character.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I think that's
Absolutely.
what you were doing in that position. I just watched a video of a 91-year-old cop. He's 91-year-old.
On duty still?
Yeah, he's
I
on
seen
duty
that.
still. He retired. And
Couple
he only
times.
retired, but he only retired for 1 week and came back. And he retired again for 1 week and came back. And they asked him, the question that was cool was they asked him, how many people do you think you've arrested over these, I think it's like 50 years he's been serving. And he said, I don't know, but I've taken more people home than I've arrested. And I thought that was a very cool statement of him to say that he's out there trying to help people more than just lay the hammer. Which your job is to lay the hammer, but you have to try to help people as well. I just love when people of your stature are in your position who are trying to help the community, not just use their power. So it's so cool to see.
I remember once at the church on a Wednesday night, a girl came up to me, and she goes, I used to always do announcements. I don't do that anymore. Justin and Tom and Gennaro do a great job.
Damn
but my name would come up, and then she came up and she goes, are you related to your last name's Touchstone? Are you related to a deputy Touchstone? I go, I am. My brother's Tim Touchstone. And she goes, well, he arrested me last night. And I go, yeah, my brother's retired now, so I can tell the story. I think, I hope. But he said that as they picked her up, she was getting kind of crazy, and he says, hey, shut up. I'm going to pray for you. And she told me on a Wednesday night, she goes, I kind of thought maybe this was some new law enforcement technique, So she goes, quiet, and your brother prayed for me. He said it's the first time he ever did it. So he just prayed that God would give me favor if my story was true. And she goes, I just got out of court this morning, and the judge said, I'm going to give you favor. But I want you to straighten your life up. So it was great. She called me. She goes, hey, not call me. She was telling me that she's going to leave town because she thanked my brother. So I called him up after church, and I said, Tim, I had this encounter. And she said, thank you. And he goes, oh, my gosh. First time I ever did it and never done it since. I've asked him, several times after he retired, did you ever do it again? He goes, no. There's more behind the story, but it's kind of cool when you hear those.
Right.
Those cool stories.
So clearly at a point you decided you were going to shift careers. How did that come about?
Well, it came about as back then there was a girl I was dating. She worked in insurance, and I worked in law enforcement. And I was thinking at some point in time, if I had to relocate, it's tough to relocate working in law enforcement because basically you have to apply and start off at the bottom of everybody else's totem pole. And I think I was having lunch out there one day, and there was a gentleman I respected and kind of grew up a few years older than me. He worked in HR out there, and he seen me out there having lunch, and he'd come up and talk to me, and he'd be like, you ever think about changing careers? And I'm like,
I love those stories.
I said, no, not really. I'm happy where I'm at. And it was funny because here I am, I'm going as a probation officer, I have on my badge shirt, and I'd go in, I have my gun on when I went in there. And he said, some of the people are starting to get worried because there's a man in the building with a gun. And I said, really? And he's like, yeah. He said, when you come in, could you leave your gun in the car? I'm like, well, there's a badge right next to my gun. You know what I mean?
That authorizes me to have the gun.
Right. I'm like, they're uncomfortable. He's like, yeah. So anyway, he kept talking to me about it, and I said, all right. I said, I'll consider it or whatever. And he talked to me about one position and specifically, and I said that sounds kind of interesting. And then I got back to the office, and I'm talking to my partner, who was a probation officer with me. As he and I, we kind of ran our unit, and we were in a small specialized unit. And he said, I was telling him what the position was, and he's bust up laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, I interviewed for that position a couple weeks ago.
No.
He said, and I just got offered the job. Right, so the same.
That means he didn't.
No, but they were hiring. No, he took the job.
okay.
He took
okay.
it, but they were hiring multiple people for that
love that.
specific position. But so he took the position, and they gave him a lot of flack for leaving because they don't want you to leave. You're on probation; they want you to stay there.
Yeah, for sure.
And they were mad at him, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, if they're mad at him, what are they going to do
When I
feel
said
about me? And then this our DPO3, who was the basically our department head. For our division, he would say like, yeah, Manuel left and this, that, and the other. And he's like, you wouldn't do that to us, this, that, and the other. And then within the next 8 weeks, I was gone. so I interviewed and I left right behind him. So I was like, and I'm like, we kind of left him in shambles because we basically did 90%
whole
of the
unit,
work.
yeah.
We did 90% of the work. Because when you're a
man,
supervisor,
that's
you're
a
just
hit.
kind of relaxed now, you know? So and then they had to get new people, had to train new people. So
I
yeah.
like that. I like that.
Understandable.
But that's how I made the change. And when I got into insurance, I didn't go right into sales. I did initially started out in claims.
Okay.
So it started out and I did
What does that entail?
Yeah, what is
well,
us in.
there's different claims. A lot of people, when they think claims, they only think about auto claims. And so on my side, I did home claims and I did what was called catastrophe claims. And anytime you hear about tornadoes,
where you
hurricanes,
went.
earthquakes, big hailstorms, I got deployed out all over the United States. So I probably traveled 250, 300 days a year in that job. So funnest job I ever had, though.
Oh,
you know,
man.
because you got to see parts of the United States that you never get to see before.
Probably right in after a tornado happened.
Right. You know, when you
or
see on the
something like
news
that.
where you see the big wood sign with an address,
Yeah.
their address written on the wood or spray painted on wood, I'm the guy driving up looking for that. Basically, it's a piece of dirt. You know,
Yeah.
It's a foundation and a slab. So, I mean, but you feel good when you get to go and you get to help people because a
Yeah.
lot of times they think this, you know, their life, this is the biggest thing they're ever going to face in their life. And then you get to be there and you're the recovery man. You show up. It's kind of like you walk away feeling like the hero when you wrote them a big fat check. You know, it wasn't my money, but the fact that I'm showing up to write the checks.
That's funny.
I had a
That's
small level
Yeah.
thing. We had a pipe burst behind our fridge just recently, and I was like, it was a smaller issue than I thought, but I thought it was going to be black mold and a bigger issue. And I just remember thinking like how panicked I was, and we talked to our insurance, and they let us know like if it was a big deal, like a lot of it would have been covered if we met our deductible. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? In those moments, you guys are superheroes.
Yeah, they are.
Because I was in a
Right.
panic, and I ended up being small scale, which praise the Lord. But I get what you mean because
Right.
someone in your position was my superhero just a week ago.
Oh, Tiff and I had that a while back. We had a toilet that was leaking, and we were so fortunate because they took the toilet out, then they took the bathroom wall out, then they took our bedroom wall
It
out.
just kept going.
Then they took.
Yep, I've seen those stories.
Yes, it just kept it kept growing,
Right.
and so we didn't know it was leaking, but it was yeah. But you are, I mean, they are superheroes at that point. So
How'd you went from that into sales in, which is a
big,
total different gig.
totally different thing. Well, what happened is when I did all the traveling, I felt like I was making a ton of money because every day you were gone, they gave you got per diem money to eat, and they gave you an additional $150 a day just for being gone out of town on top of your normal salary. And so,
Amazing.
but by then I got married, and being gone 250 to 300 days a year,
yeah,
you're not going to stay married very
No,
long. I'm like, that's not going to
Not
work
gonna
out.
work.
So I switched positions and I took another job in another position. And when I did that, I took about a $30,000 to $40,000 a year pay cut. So doing that, and that's a lot of money to lose. So I started looking like, what can I do on the side? And one of my friends approached me about a home-based business or network marketing business, and I was kind of skeptical about it. So, but I signed up more to help him. Then I got the information, started reading about it, and it just kind of worked out. I started doing it, and I really never thought of myself as a salesperson. I used to hate salespeople, so which is ironic that I'm
You got
in
a great
sales now.
smile.
So thank you, I appreciate that. So in doing that is like I started selling this product on the side while I had my regular job. So I switched from claims to underwriting is what happened,
Okay.
and that's when I took the pay cut. So I started doing this business on the side, and in doing so, I was like, let me make some money on the side part time. So I started doing this part-time sales business, and before you know it, people were like, well, do you sell life insurance? I'm like, no. And then, because the one thing I learned is people do business with folks they know, like, and trust. So
Yes.
if people know you, like you, and trust you, they'll do business
So
with you.
important.
That's
So
a fact.
in doing that, I was like, I was referring them to someone else to sell life insurance and other insurances they were inquiring to me about. And I'm like, well, if they're asking me, how come I don't just sell it? So ended up getting my other license. And at the time I was working for a company and they didn't want me to have my home-based business, which I had already started making significant income. Like I was making more money doing that part-time than I was at my full-time job. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to give up my business. So another insurance company, basically, they were trying to recruit. They find you online and stuff like that. And I walked in, and the first thing I told the lady, I was like, I do prepaid legal services. She's like, I know. She had already done her research. I'm like, that's not a problem. She's like, I don't care. She's like, we don't sell that. I'm like, all right, well, then show me the numbers. So she did that. And I mean, I've been in insurance now, own my own agency now, it'll be 16 years in June. So, and it's definitely been a blessing. It's not easy. You have to jump out there on faith and just say, I'm going to make it work. So in the beginning, there's always growing pains in the beginning. So I would say it probably took about 3 to 5 years to get to a level where I was like, I'm comfortable now. You know, I can, I feel like I'm replaced that income. And because when you take first step out there, you're 100% commission. So that's, people are scared of sales.
It is a step of faith. I know when I came into the
Absolutely.
ministry, I took a 2/3 salary cut, but I really believed in where I was going. So, James, I got a question real quick. Have you always, because knowing you and just talking to you and even hearing your story, have you always been that guy that isn't afraid to change or isn't afraid to take a risk, or did you have to develop that? And if you had to
I
develop it,
think
how'd
a
you do
little
it?
bit of both. I've always been a risk taker. I think I'm comfortable about some things, but then some things I'll be like, you never know if you don't try.
Yes.
You know, so I'd take a risk, and they weren't all successes. You know, there's always oftentimes failures that goes with the success. And so it's funny when I do some public speaking, I always tell the story, the 409 story. You guys heard the 409 story? So I'll tell this usually when I'm talking to groups of kids. So the company 409, you guys know what that is.
Yes.
Household cleaner. Justin,
yeah,
you're
the cleaner,
a
the
little
cleaner.
younger,
No,
Justin.
we're getting ready to
You may
learn
not
something,
know,
Justin.
Justin.
I used to get grounded for not using
Right,
that. Now I know
exactly.
what
You
it
may
is.
not know,
Gotcha.
Justin, but the 409 story, the way it got its name is the scientists that were trying to create this this product. They basically were doing it, trying to come up with the perfect cleaning solution, and it failed 408 times.
Oh, wow, I get that.
And on the 409th time is
Oh,
when
wow.
they figured out we have the perfect formula now. And that's how it got the name 409. So think about all the failures that happened.
That's a
Had they
good
not
story.
continued to keep failing over and over and over
That's a
again.
great story.
Oh, yeah, that's, I'm writing it
to
down.
get
Junior hires are hearing that story this
You-
weekend.
Yeah, you'll be featured this Sunday.
Right. So basically, I tell people at the end of every failure, there's always success. You know, you just have to be willing to go through the failures. And one of my mentors always tell me, he said, just keep failing forward.
You know what? You just hit a word, one of your mentors. Did you find that was a important step for you in life or in business, to having somebody you could go to?
Both. And I would say you're going to have a lot of mentors in life, and it just depends on where you're at. And in anything people are doing, I always say you have to meet people where they're at, you know, because people are going through different things in life, and everybody may not be, you may see something in them that they don't see in themselves. So I've found mentors, and it's usually because I'm not afraid to ask. You know, sometimes people.
That's important to know.
That is important to know.
Because do you find, James, that when you ask something, people are readily available to
Yeah.
say yes?
People will help,
Yes, they will.
but you don't ask. And one thing I heard a lot of times growing up is closed mouths don't get fed. You know, so if you don't
I like
ask
that.
the question or ask for help, then you're not going to get it because nobody knows that you want the help.
And I
So
think
if you don't make it known,
This has been
how
a
do they
common
know?
denominator for everyone watching. We've brought on some people who are successful, and when I say successful, I think I want to make sure you guys understand what we think is success. It's making it, doing something you love, and not having to break your moral code, right?
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't matter the amount that you're making. It's how you're making it, and each person we brought on has mentioned a mentor of some
Yes.
sort.
Yes.
Every person so far.
It's okay to have somebody
Every
who's been
person.
there before you.
Yes, and if you don't have one, it's time to open your mouth and ask. Because
Yeah.
think about this: every successful person we brought on has had this person.
And then what do you have to give to somebody else?
Right.
Because you can
Exactly.
be a mentor to somebody else.
Right, and I believe that's the biggest thing. My biggest life premise is that true abundance comes from giving back.
Oh.
So I feel like if you've made it to have some level of success in something or have some type of knowledge, you should be willing to give back. And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily giving financially; it could be simply giving of your time. You
Yeah.
know, I think of something that just happened. It was on Monday of this week. Me and one of my buddies, we play golf, and we get to the golf course, and you guys play golf?
I don't. No. I will attempt it, but you can't. What I do, you can't play. You can't call it playing golf.
Okay.
I hack.
Well, that's all right. There's nothing wrong with being a hack in the beginning.
Oh man, no. It's never gotten better. I'm not built for it.
Well, did you practice?
I tried. I took lessons.
Oh.
And it's just not built for it, and I would just try to muscle it.
But was it fun?
This is my philosophy in life. I don't do anything. Justin and I, when we started doing this, I got to have fun at doing things. So I always got to bring fun in.
So you don't wanna do it?
No, I do it. And if people hear us on the golf course, I think you've played with
I've
this.
played with
I,
you guys.
I laugh all
It's
the
the
time.
funniest
Okay.
I mean,
thing.
I'll swing hard. The club may flow out of my hand, or the ball may go like 3 foot, but I'm having fun.
Right.
Because
That's the most important thing.
I
You're having
realize
fun.
I'm not good at it, and I've tried to get lessons, and I'm not going to be good at it. So why not have fun? But I wanted to be. The last time I played, I had some heart issues, and after I got a clearance from my doctor, I went out and played with these guys. Did terrible, but I loved being around the young guys and passed it on. I really
Yeah, I
did.
love what golf. I was that guy. I want you to finish your story, but I was that guy who said everyone who played golf was unathletic. Golf was the dumbest sport ever. It's easy, put a ball in a hole, and then I finally stopped being a little prideful, stubborn guy, and I went out and played it one day, and it was horrible.
You were
It
humbled.
was horrible.
Very humbled.
And I'm like, okay, I had to try to conquer this. And now we're like 2.5 years in, and I'm still trying to even become a amateur.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's so
It's the most
hard.
challenging sport
It's so
there is.
hard, but
Yeah.
it's so fun. So I love that.
Right.
But
Yep.
go ahead, finish your story.
So when I say true abundance comes from giving back, I think about me and my buddy. We showed up, and before the round starts, we're talking business. Basically, we always talk about stocks and stuff like that, and investment stuff. And one of the kids that worked there, I think he's 20, 21 years old. He's kind of overhearing the conversation, and he interjects. And this is what I mean by closed mouths don't get fed. He asked a question. He said, "I hear you guys talking about stocks and stuff." He said, "I'm just getting started in it." He said, "Do you guys have any tips or suggestions?" And my buddy told him one little tip or whatever. And we were kind of running late to get to our tee time. So we hurry up and we went out and we teed off. And then a couple days later, I seen him again. And I told him, I said, I know you inquired last time. I said, we were kind of pressed for time. I said, but if you're interested, and I kind of probably spent like 10 minutes there standing there talking to him. And I said, this is just kind of like a little intro. I said, if you're really interested, I said, give me a call. I gave him my office number. I said, come in and sit down with me for 30 minutes or so, and I'll educate you on some things and give you some insight, So true enough, he called. And, he came to my office on Monday. He probably was there for 45 minutes to an hour, but he took a lot of notes, and he just walked away feeling real good, and was thankful that I took time just to share with him. Because he didn't have money to really invest or anything like that like a normal client would, but just the fact that I took time out of my schedule to give back and share with him how it works, what to do, the different things that there are about investing. Because a lot of people now, especially young folks, they're hung up on this Robinhood, and all they think,
I'm that person.
they want the home run.
I'm the
right?
other person.
Right.
I got the money to invest.
I'm swinging for the fence.
Yeah, they want the home run. And stocks are difficult as an entry into investments, because when people think insurance, I do insurance and financial services. So I do both. So I kind of broke it down and gave him beginning to the end, how it works and the different avenues you could take in doing so.
I love it.
I need a meeting next week.
So golf sounds like it's something you do. Does your wife or anybody do it with you?
My wife does play.
Well,
Okay.
there was a story that we talked about, and we had our little pre-meeting.
Yeah.
That I want to get in. I know it's a little personal, but I would love to get into that story. I think it
What
brings
was
up
that story?
of the guys originally met. I was talking to Pastor Tom. You guys originally met in like a couple's what was it?
Well, you were trying to interest your wife in playing golf last time I heard, and she wasn't interested.
She wasn't interested
There we
initially.
go.
There we
Oh,
go.
we were at one of the couples retreats.
Yeah,
we were talking
there
about
we
it.
go.
Yeah.
It was a conference or something. I knew it was.
Yeah. And initially, she wasn't really interested, and this is what's really funny. And this is me being a little selfish too. So
Okay. Well, we're men.
She's ready for this one.
Well,
Watch it.
I figured, yeah, she's ready for this one. So I call myself, I'm playing, and I'm still not very good. I'm still not good now, but it's still fun.
Yeah, it
you know
is.
what I mean? But I call myself, I'm like, I want some new clubs. So I'm going to get myself
we
some
know
new
that
clubs,
struggle.
right? So I buy myself some new clubs. I go out there, I clean the old clubs up, get them, put all her stuff in. Basically, I'm giving her all my hand-me-downs, right? Put everything in the bag. I got myself all new stuff. And I said, I got the golf clubs out there ready for you so you can go now. We can go to the range. We're going to play, right? And she's like, did you forget I was left-handed? I'm like,
no.
yeah. so trying to be cheap and get me some new clubs, those clubs now are just sitting in the corner in the garage because her being left-handed, and because I told her I would get her clubs, I had to buy her a new set of clubs.
Two
Because
new
of
sets
course
of
I didn't have any left-handed clubs, but she started to play now, and to the point now where she'll actually go to the driving range with some of her friends. Or she'll say, "I'm going to go out and play," and she'll go play by herself. You know, I'm
That
going
is
to play. I think
insane.
really she just likes and this is funny that she tells me this because she was an athlete in high school and in college, but she says I'm not competitive, and I think that's ironic that she says that. But in golf, she doesn't care. She just wants to be outdoors with
love that.
nature and the sun and walking and enjoying the outdoors.
I love it because you see value of doing it together, right?
Mm-hmm.
You found the secret. I'm gonna buy my
Right.
wife golf clubs this week.
Uh-huh.
See if
It's
it
fun.
works.
You think
It's
Kathy
funny.
wanna
It's funny
go?
because a couple of my
Judge,
friends
we
have
went
said-
to the range. It's pretty fun.
A couple of my friends have said, I don't want my wife out there. This is my time. This is for me. And then months later, you'll see, their wife's at the golf course with them now. Because if it's something that you love doing and enjoying doing it, I mean, who do you want to do it with?
Yeah,
You're going to do it with
that
your
is
life
smart.
partner and who you're going to be with,
do.
right?
And I think that's important too, James, because we're going to end up on that note. What do you guys do to make sure you guys stay on track with marriage? Because I do believe that. I'm an empty nester now. My wife, but I have a daughter who lives in Nashville, one that lives in Orange County. And I found out after they were out that my wife and I still like each other. And I think that's important for couples to know because because one day you are back to being with you and your spouse, and that's how it starts. And so you went into this union called marriage because you liked each other, you loved each other, and it's nice to be at that same point later on. What do you guys do?
Well, it's not easy.
It's
And
not.
you know, anybody who's married or in a relationship is nothing's easy. Anything worth having is not going to be easy. So it takes work, and sometimes there's the disconnect, but then you just have to take the time and have those conversations. And they're not always easy conversations. So I think sometimes when we feel like we're pulling apart or things aren't getting easy, seems like, and it seems like I was like, we just left the kids in there. We'll get in the room and we'll have one of our little powwow meetings, and it may be what it turned into for an hour. It may turn into a 2 or 3 hour conversation, but it's things that we discuss, and not necessarily that we brought it up before, but I guess it was just things that needed to be brought out or things that needed to be said. So, and usually when we have those conversations, she says it's me doing most of the talking because she says I talk forever, which I guess I'm really just trying to make sure that I'm
understand.
heard. I want to make sure that you have clarity
She's
on where
amening out there,
where
yeah.
I'm coming from. You know what I mean? Because she's the type, she just wants it to be over with. And I'm like, I want to make sure that you're clear on where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of love, and I'm coming from a place of caring, and I want to make sure that you understand it versus me just saying it, because I do have a dominant personality. One of my friends told me I'm like a bull in a china shop,
you go.
at times. So I can't be domineering, but at the same time, with her, I have to kind of soften it sometime, but she's no pushover. So if she comes
Not
at
at
me
all.
hard, then I'm just going to push me more. So
But
we get there.
I think that's what's the beauty of
Yeah.
marriage and couples,
Yeah.
because we are different, and having that difference is what really takes.
Creates balance.
It,
too.
it does.
Creates
And
balance.
I love what you're saying, because marriages, and I do a lot of marriage counseling, marriages don't fail because of too much communication. They fail because of too little.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I think what you guys do is healthy. Anything you want to
And
leave
you guys clearly did something right, because you guys are here. She's here supporting
Yes,
you,
I
and you're
love it.
looking at her smiling. It's what we like to see.
We do.
It's
Right. We
good.
do.
It's refreshing to see. So keep doing what you guys are doing.
Anything you want to leave our audience with? A thought, an idea, philosophy, a motto, or a quote?
Dream big or don't dream at all.
Come
like
on.
That's the thing I would probably say is some people have, they say they want to do certain things, but you can't make your dream be mediocre.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They always say make your dream be something that's above average.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, I always talk about my mentors a lot because I've had so many, but one of the things he always told me, he said, the graveyard is full of dreams.
Ooh.
And he said, so many people died because they were afraid to pursue what they really wanted. And they didn't pursue in their destiny or get to where they really belong because they were afraid. So like you said, fear. When you led in with fear at the beginning of this segment, it was false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
A lot of times people are fearful, and it's basically you're lying to yourself.
Yes.
It's not that you can't do it, it's that you don't try to do it.
So good.
And until you become unafraid to fail, you can't have the success that you're looking for.
So it's so good. That's
You guys, this is a great resource right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, it
So
is.
if you're
Well,
watching,
yeah,
look 'em up.
and James comes to our Cal State campus, which will probably be over to Northwest, because
Yeah.
I love
Right.
doing ministry with you, James and Janelle. And I think that is, the Bible says we don't have a spirit of fear
Mhm.
or timidity, but one of sound mind
Mhm.
and power. So I
Yeah.
love that. Anything else, Justin, you want to end up with? We
That-
whittle over
that
today.
is
but
Thank
I
you
love
guys
it.
for having me.
Oh, I love
appreciate
having you.
How
Thanks
can
for
people
inviting me
reach
on
you?
Yeah,
here.
how
And what's
can
your
they reach you?
company? Like, let them know. Let them
Oh,
know.
yeah. So definitely get that out there.
Yeah,
So,
get that
so,
out there.
Farmers Insurance and Financial Services. I'm
Okay.
located on South H, 1 block north of Ming Avenue.
Okay.
Our office number is 661-836-1300.
I love
Okay.
it. Contact James, because there again, we're trying to present you with resources,
Yep.
helpful things, and love doing the show. James, man,
Yeah,
I love
this
being
was,
around
this
you.
was
too.
cool.
Oh, I love
man.
it.
This
Thank
was
you.
good stuff. Good stuff. It's
Thanks for
nice
having me,
talking to
guys.
you. Thank you guys for watching.
Yep.
Send some questions. You got questions for them?
Yep.
We can help answer them
Yep.
next week, or we can get them directly to
Yep.
them.
And our next week's guest is Mike Green. He
Good
was
one.
a soldier in Iraq and injury, so look forward to seeing you next week. So,
Thanks for tuning in. See you later.
bye.